The 2023 Supreme Court decision reaffirming presidential immunity has emerged as a significant turning point in American politics, influencing how accountability is enforced or thwarted within the highest levels of government. Ironically, this ruling, initially embraced by Donald Trump's allies as a bulwark against legal threats to his administration, is now shaping up to be a major obstacle for Trump's ambitions to target his political adversaries. Trump's recent reported interest in prosecuting U.S. military generals for their role in the chaotic 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal highlights this irony. By seeking to weaponize investigations into military decisions, Trump's team risks colliding headfirst with the very immunity protections they once championed. This article will analyze how Trump's own legal maneuvers have inadvertently created barriers for his plans, why the Afghanistan withdrawal decision cannot legally be considered treason, and how this situation exemplifies the pitfalls of politically charged legal strategies. Beyond the immediate drama, this development raises larger questions about the unintended consequences of partisan efforts to tilt the judiciary and manipulate legal principles. The fallout from this case may not only alter Trump's ability to act against his political rivals, but also serve as a lasting example of how legal systems can recoil against those who abuse them. Let's explore this fascinating and ironic situation in detail. Trump's transition team targets military generals. According to an NBC News report, members of Donald Trump's transition team are currently researching the possibility of prosecuting senior military generals over their involvement in the controversial 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal. The withdrawal, marked by chaotic images of civilians desperately fleeing Kabul, remains a sore point in American politics. Republicans have consistently used it to criticize President Joe Biden's leadership and decision-making. However, the focus of Trump's team on prosecuting military leaders and even suggesting treason charges goes beyond mere political posturing. Reports indicate that a commission is being considered to investigate which military officials were involved in executing Biden's orders, how decisions were implemented, and whether these actions could warrant criminal prosecution. Treason, the most extreme charge floated by Trump allies, is particularly notable for its gravity and its constitutional inapplicability to this situation. The misuse of treason as a political weapon. One of the most striking aspects of Trump's strategy is the frequent and cavalier misuse of the term treason. Under the U.S. Constitution, treason is narrowly defined as levying war against the United States or adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. The clumsy execution of military operations, even one as controversial as the Afghanistan withdrawal, does not meet this definition by any legal standard. Trump and his allies, however, have a well-documented history of weaponizing terms like treason, communism, and Marxism to attack their opponents. This rhetorical strategy relies on the audience's emotional response rather than a substantive understanding of the terms. For example, Trump loyalists frequently label political adversaries as socialists or Marxists, despite most of them being unable to define these ideologies. This same lack of precision underpins their accusations of treason, reducing a grave constitutional offense to a catch-all insult for anyone they oppose. The targeting of military officials for treason also reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the military chain of command. As Commander-in-Chief, President Biden has the constitutional authority to issue military directives. By law, generals and other military officials are obligated to follow those orders. To prosecute military officials for carrying out presidential orders is not only legally dubious, but would also destabilize the very structure of the armed forces. Presidential immunity. Trump's self-inflicted wound. This is where Trump's plans face their most significant obstacle: the Supreme Court's 2023 decision reaffirming the doctrine of presidential immunity. Under this ruling, presidents, and by extension, executive branch officials, are immune from prosecution for actions taken in their official capacities. The conservative-leaning court, with a 6-3 majority, largely upheld this principle to protect Donald Trump himself from lawsuits and legal challenges related to his presidency. But this ruling applies to all presidents, not just Trump. For the Afghanistan withdrawal, this means President Biden and the military leaders who executed his orders are shielded by this same immunity. The chain of protection extends to Vice President Kamala Harris, members of Biden's cabinet, and other officials carrying out lawful directives. Any attempt by Trump's team to prosecute these individuals for actions tied to their official duties will almost certainly be dismissed. The irony is impossible to ignore. Trump's legal team and conservative allies sought to strengthen executive immunity to shield him from accountability. Now, this very principle is preventing him from pursuing the vengeance he appears to desire against his political rivals. The Afghanistan withdrawal, a Trump-Biden connection. It's also worth noting that the seeds of the Afghanistan withdrawal were planted during Trump's presidency. In February 2020, the Trump administration brokered the Doha Agreement with the Taliban. This deal laid the groundwork for the eventual withdrawal, with promises to pull out U.S. forces by May 2021. While Biden's administration oversaw the withdrawal's chaotic execution, the initial framework was a product of Trump's foreign policy decisions. Despite this, Trump has attempted to distance himself from the withdrawal, focusing instead on criticizing its aftermath. His transition team's efforts to shift blame entirely onto Biden's administration ignore the bipartisan nature of the withdrawal's origins. If accountability is truly the goal, Trump's own role in setting the stage for the withdrawal must also be examined, a prospect his allies are unlikely to entertain. Broader implications for Trump's political agenda. The implications of this situation extend beyond the Afghanistan withdrawal. Trump and his allies have floated the idea of prosecuting Vice President Kamala Harris for her handling of immigration issues at the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as targeting other senior officials for their policy decisions. Yet all of these efforts are likely to fail under the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. This setback is emblematic of Trump's broader approach to governance and legal strategy. By prioritizing short-term political gains and personal vendettas, he and his allies have consistently overlooked the long-term consequences of their actions. The Supreme Court's immunity doctrine is just one example of how these strategies can backfire, creating legal precedents that limit Trump's own future actions. Moreover, this episode highlights the dangers of weaponizing the judiciary for partisan purposes. When legal principles are treated as tools for political retribution, they lose their credibility and efficacy. The Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, while initially seen as a conservative victory, now serves as a reminder that legal doctrines cannot be selectively applied. The Supreme Court's 2023 decision on presidential immunity may well be one of the most ironic twists in Donald Trump's political saga. What was once a shield for Trump and his allies has become an insurmountable barrier to their attempts to target President Biden, Vice President Harris, and senior military officials. The court's reaffirmation of executive immunity ensures that decisions made in an official capacity, no matter how controversial, are beyond the reach of criminal prosecution. This situation underscores the perils of politicizing the legal system. By championing immunity protections for their own political benefit, Trump and his allies have inadvertently tied their hands in their quest to prosecute their adversaries. The lesson here is clear. Legal principles are not partisan tools, and efforts to manipulate them often have unintended consequences. As Trump's transition team continues to explore ways to pursue their political rivals, they would do well to remember that the same legal system they sought to weaponize is now working against them. This irony may be frustrating for Trump, but it serves as a crucial reminder of the importance of consistency, integrity, and restraint in the application of the law.